Nostalgic, right? Ready to get back to the 90s? Alright, man. So look, today we talking about Yu Yu Hakusho, one of the most iconic anime from the 90s that's still giving modern shonen a run for his money. This show was the gateway for so many anime fans, especially if you was watching Toonami in the early 2000s. This was during the time when I didn't even know what anime was, but I knew the animation and design was nothing like the other cartoons I was watching. Yu Yu Hakusho's got heart, action, and more fists flying than a street brawl. It's a roller coaster ride through demon slaying cases, insane tournaments, and demon world politics. Yusuke Urameshi is the spirit detective with a bad attitude and is at the center of it all. But trust me, the side characters in this series are just as important. So today, we're going to give them all the love they deserve while figuring out if Yu Yu Hakusho still holds up today. So Yu Yu Hakusho kicks off with Yusuke Urameshi. He's your typical high school delinquent. The boy skipping class, getting into fights, and pretty much living that I don't care life. That is until that might pull a surprise move and save a kid from getting hit by a car and dies. Yeah, bro dies saving a kid who would have survived anyway. Ironic, right? Even the afterlife's like, wait, what? Yusuke did something good? So they give the man a second shot at life under one condition. He gotta become a spirit detective and start saving people from evil spirits while throwing hands with demons. Naturally, Yusuke like, bet, let's do it. From there, we get a series of arcs: the Spirit Detective Saga, the Dark Tournament, Chapter Black, and the Three Kings, where each one does build off the last. Now, the Spirit Detective arc is cool and all, but let's be real. It's the Dark Tournament that things really start to cook. That arc is the blueprint for every anime tournament arc ever. And I'll be honest, look, until I hit college, I didn't even know Chapter Black and the Three Kings existed because, they never aired on TV. But I digress. So the Dark Tournament is where Yu Yu Hakusho goes from, okay, this is cool, to, alright, this is pretty dope. Team Urameshi gets thrown into a fight to the death competition where you either win or your life literally get hit with that Yeetus Deletus. You gone. No respawn. No continues. It's sayonara bye-bye. You know what I'm saying? Stakes is high, bro. The tournament is packed with memorable moments and insane battles. But let's not forget Toguro. And I mean younger Toguro to be exact. The homie built like a walking protein shake. And his obsession with Yusuke's growth is both terrifying and oddly motivational. Toguro is obsessed with getting the ultimate fight out of Yusuke, so he spends most of the tournament mentally and physically torturing him to make sure he pushed to his limits. I can't lie though, that final showdown between Yusuke and Toguro is peak anime though. Yusuke out here squaring up, pulling out all the stops, unlocking new levels of power, and Toguro just keep getting more and more jacked. You think it's over and then nope, the main power will begin. Let's not forget that Toguro Brothers' whole arc is about Toguro trying to justify that he made the right choice by throwing his own humanity in the trash. We can't forget though that the emotional punch in this arc does come from Genkai. She's Yusuke's mentor and basically the only person who can keep him in line and make him strong at the same time. Her fight with Toguro brings all that history to the surface and gives the arc some real emotional weight. When her big moment came, if you weren't hitting the fields, man, we gotta talk about your emotional range, bro. The fights in the Dark Tournament are pretty dope, and that final battle between Yusuke and Toguro is a highlight of the series. But there is one thing. While the tournament's non-stop action is amazing, that pacing does drag at times. There are a few stretches where it do feel like we just killing time until the next big fight. I mean, it's a small nitpick, but it's there. So next we got the Chapter Black Saga, which throws the show into a darker, more philosophical territory. And after the High of the Dark Tournament, this arc does bring us back down to earth. So boom, we got Shinobu Sensui. He's Yusuke's predecessor as spirit detective, and he went rogue after watching a VHS tape of humanity's worst moments. Yeah, bruh, basically binge watched all of humanity's greatest hits of evil and decided that demons might not be the bad guys after all. He's like Yusuke, but with a fractured personality. Literally. The man got 7 personalities, one of which is a girl, but somehow each personality is worse than the last. But look, this arc hits hard because it doesn't just rely on the over-the-top fights like the Dark Tournament did. It dives deep into moral ambiguity and questions who the real monsters are. So Yusuke, for the first time, faces a villain who makes him question his own role in all of this. And Sensui, he not your average, I just want to blow up the world kind of villain. He a guy who genuinely believes what he's doing is right, which makes him all the more dangerous for him. If that wasn't enough, man, Yusuke dies again. Because why just settle for one death when you can have two in the show, right? The second time around, though, it gets complicated as it ties into Yusuke's demon heritage, something we learn a lot more about in the final saga. But at the end of it all, Sensui's lifeless body is just taken away by his boy toy lover Itsuki into the void to protect his body and be close to him to do God knows what. Man, it's like the darkest ride or die relationship you ever seen. But look, man, here's the thing about Chapter Black. As interesting as Sensui's character is, the whole humans are the real monsters thing feels a bit heavy-handed. The moral ambiguity is cool, sure, but after a while, you kind of miss the simpler times when it was just Yusuke punching demons in the face without all those ethics involved. And honestly, that whole VHS tape plot point, man, it didn't really age that well. Watching the tape that instantly makes you lose faith in humanity, man, these days we just call that Twitter. Now on to the Three Kings arc, which is probably the most polarizing part of Yu Yu Hakusho. After all the intense action of the previous arcs, this one decides to slow things down and dive into demon politics. Yusuke discovers that his ancestor Rising was one of the most powerful demons in existence, until the man decided to be a simp and quit eating humans and is literally dying because, plot twist, he fell in love with one. Meanwhile, Kurama's old partner Yomi is risen to power and has his own plans for the demon world. And then you got Makuro, the scared, mysterious ruler who takes Hiei under her wing. Look, this arc dives into Yusuke's demon lineage and the struggles for power in the demon world. While not as fight heavy as the Dark Tournament or Chapter Black, it offers some strong character moments and brings everything full circle as Yusuke tries to balance his human side with his demon heritage. Man, it sounds cool and all, right? Well, kinda. This arc had the potential to be dope, but instead of giving us that climatic battle royal, man, it spends a lot of time on political maneuvering and all those alliances. And while it's cool and all to explore the demon world's power dynamics, the pacing does feel off, and the final battles are very anticlimactic compared to what we saw in previous arcs. Yusuke's big fight with Yomi just feels more like an exhibition match than a world-altering showdown. It is not exactly the explosive ending that the series deserved. Alright, so now we gotta talk about the real heart of Yu Yu Hakusho, which are the characters. Yu Yu Hakusho has one of the most iconic squads in anime history, and despite the pacing issues and some of the plot weirdness, the cast is what keeps you hooked. So first off, we got the boy Yusuke Urameshi. This dude is everything you want in a shonen protagonist. The boy is cocky, brash, and always ready to throw hands. He grows throughout the series, but let's be honest, we're here to watch the man square up and punch some stuff. More dilemmas are great and all, but the guy's at his best when he's out here yelling, Still, Yusuke's journey from a punk kid to someone who actually cares about the world is oddly satisfying. Next up, we got Kuwabara. He's a lovable fool of the group who's all heart and no brains. His spirit sword is cool and all, but let's face it, that boy is mostly just a comic relief. His whole I'm in love with Yukina thing is kind of overdone. But his loyalty to Yusuke and his willingness to jump into the fray, despite clearly being outmatched 90% of the time, makes him pretty endearing. Then we got Kurama. This man is the only guy who can make flowers deadly, bro. He's the strategist of the group and is pretty quiet. He's got a collected demeanor and is great contrast to Yusuke's brashness. That being said, there are moments where Kurama feels a little too perfect, you know what I'm saying? That man got the looks, bro, the brains and the power, man. Can the guy have a flaw, please? I mean, have you seen his Yoko transformation? It's enough to make anybody go, oh. Then we got Hiei, the twin brother of Yukina. He's a brooding fire demon with a jacked up backstory of being left for dead by his clan of all ice maidens, who believed him to be a cursed child and threw him off of a mountain all because his mom just wanted to have a little fun, you know what I'm saying? But his Dragon of the Darkness flame, that's one of the coolest attacks in anime. But for somebody who's supposed to be a ruthless lone wolf, he sure does spend a lot of his time bailing his friends out. His arc with Makuro and the Three Kings saga does add some depth to his character, but let's not forget that Hiei has literally gone out of his way to keep his identity as Yukina's brother a secret from her since the start of the show. The show doesn't really do a ton of development for these dudes later on in the other arcs. Hiei and Kurama kinda take a back seat once Yusuke gets into his whole Demon King heritage thing. Kuwabara, well, let's just say he get benched for most of Chapter Black and beyond. Man, it's a shame though, cause the gang dynamic is what makes that show fun. Well look, we can't forget about some of the major supporting cast members behind the main characters though. You got Genkai, the grumpy mentor with a heart of gold, hidden deep under layers of sarcasm. She's one of the few older characters in anime that's actually allowed to be a badass, and her storyline with Toguro in the Dark Tournament packs more emotional weight than anybody expected. She's Yusuke's mentor and proves that old age don't mean weakness. Then you got Botan, the Grim Reaper with a bubbly personality. Somehow she manages to be both a comic relief and the glue that holds everything together. She starts off as Yusuke's guide to the spirit world, but eventually becomes a full-on member of the team, even though she doesn't get as much action later on as she deserves. She's fun, but she's also sidelined way too much after the spirit detective arc, which is a shame because her dynamic with Yusuke was gold. Then you got Kawema, he's a toddler and the ruler of spirit world. The main is out here perpetually trying to balance sucking on a pacifier with running the afterlife. But he plays a much larger role in the Chapter Black saga. I mean, there's no denying that he's a toddler in charge, but their routine get old real fast. It's like, man, look, how are we supposed to take the fate of the world seriously when this dude out here calling the shots? And look, we can't forget about Keiko, Yusuke's long-suffering childhood friend and love interest. Look, man, if anybody deserves a medal for putting up with Yusuke's foolishness, it's gotta be Keiko. She's a grinding force in Yusuke's life, constantly reminding him that he's still human despite his spirit detective duties. There's even this time she had to kiss this man's lifeless body just to bring him back to life, because apparently romantic CPR is a thing. But let's be real, Keiko is pretty much sidelined for most of the series. While she starts off with some strong moments like keeping Yusuke in line early on, her role dwindles as the focus shifts to demon fighting and saving the world. She's important for Yusuke's emotional development, but she don't get nearly as much screen time as the core team, which is a bit of a letdown. Alright bro, let's talk about that classic 90s animation. The hand-drawn goodness that's both charming and occasionally janky. When it's good, and the fight scenes can be pretty top tier. The way they animate every punch, kick, and over-the-top spirit attack makes you feel like you getting punched in the face, but in a good way though. Hiei's Dragon of the Darkness Flame, man, still gives me chills to this day. It's the kind of scene you watched over and over again just to feel something. But then we get to the Three Kings saga, and you can practically feel the budget cuts. The story quality drops a bit, but at that point, man, we so invested in the characters and the battles that nobody really cared. Look, man, we can't forget about that soundtrack. The opening theme, Smile Bomb, is still a bop to this day, and an instant nostalgia trip for any 90s kid who will take you straight back to your Toonami days when life was much simpler. Look, that song still gets me hyped up to this day, and the rest of the soundtrack, man, it hit just as hard during the action scenes, adding to the tension, the emotion, and the hype of every moment. Man, the outro theme was a banger itself. For something that came out in 1992, Yu Yu Hakusho holds up surprisingly well. It's wild, funny, and got more hands thrown in it than a World Star Fight video. Look, you need this in your life, trust me. It's the definition of OG. You want action, you got it. You want demons getting bodied, ayo, say less. The hand-drawn animation style gives everything a gritty, emotional edge. And even though the pacing gets a little janky by the end, I still call it a masterpiece. But here's where I throw a little shade. There's some serious drop-off in story quality during the Chapter Black and Three Kings arcs. The pacing starts getting a little lazy, and sometimes you feel like they weren't even trying. It's not ruining the experience, but if you compare early Yu Yu to late Yu Yu, it's kind of noticeable. But that said, Yu Yu Hakusho's simplicity is also what makes it great. It's not trying to be something overly complex. It's just a dude, some demons, and a whole lot of fights. Since the show was released in the early 90s, it has spawned several video games, some OVAs, and a couple movies. Admittedly, none of which I've yet to see. There is also a live action adaptation on Netflix that released in 2023, but that's a topic for another video. So there you have it. Yu Yu Hakusho is a classic for a reason. It gave us epic fights, unforgettable characters, and enough nostalgia to keep us coming back for more. Sure, it's got its flaws, some pacing issues, a questionable VHS tape, and a whole lot of demon politics, but it's all part of the charm that makes this series so beloved. Especially the end credits of the final episode that hits you with the words, forever, for never, which could mean nothing lasts forever or all good things come to an end. I've personally interpreted it as a call out to future anime that Yu Yu Hakusho will be forever imitated but never duplicated. Look, if you still binging through this classic or just reminiscing about the good old days, remember, Yu Yu Hakusho may not be perfect, but it's damn entertaining. So hit that like button if you enjoyed this dive into the world of spirit guns and demon tournaments. And don't forget to subscribe for more anime reviews to come. But hey yo, you got your own thoughts on Yu Yu Hakusho? Did I miss your favorite moment or character? Drop a comment down below and let me know about it. Until next time, everybody, peace.